Welcome to the channel where we explore stories of transformation, resilience, and success. Today, I am so pleased and honored to have Shilpa with us, who is a distinguished career development and life coach known for guiding mid career professionals out of stagnation and into careers filled with euphoria, happiness, and satisfaction. Shilpa is not only a three-time TEDx speaker, but also an inspiration to many, having been recognized for her impactful coaching with numerous awards. Her journey from facing redundancy to empowering others to achieve their full potential is nothing short of remarkable. Shilpa, thank you so much for joining us to share your wisdom and experience. Your journey from facing redundancy at Westpac to becoming a celebrated career and life coach is incredibly inspiring. Can you please share what the initial moment of realizations were like for you and how they set the stage for your transformation?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for inviting me to your channel. It's a privilege, and I'm really grateful for that. Now, when I talk about my journey and my initial moments of realization, I wish I had seen them. I had seen things coming. I kind of did, but I brushed those realizations, those moments of realization under the carpet. So if I go back to the early days when things were not working, and I'd started to feel that I'm not contributing enough. I didn't feel tall enough to enter those tall buildings. I had those moments, but I kept brushing it because I thought this is what it is. Like I'm thinking too much. Everything is going on fine. It has been going on like this for 16 years. So there's nothing wrong. And I kept brushing those feelings, even though I had started feeling inadequate, even though I had started feeling that there's a gap in the value that I was adding to the organization, but I kept brushing it aside. And only when after 5 years of going through this feeling of ups and downs and not feeling great about myself, when Westpac came and said, Shilpa, enough of it. We have tolerated you long enough and it's time for you to go. That was the time that I realized that I had burned my hands. And that was the time when I realized that all those little feelings that I had, they were actually pushing me towards a calamity in my life. And 2018, as it happened, that came to be the point where I was, for the very first time, rejected by any outside force. And at that time I had to take some big decisions in my life, whether to go to another company, take that big chunk of money that you usually get when companies ask you to go, or just look deep within myself to see what happened to me, because I wasn't like that. I was a high performer, somebody with back to back outstanding ratings, somebody who was highly looked up to. What happened to me? And that was where I decided to create it as the biggest pivot in my life.
Awesome. So, look, this is really truly remarkable. You might have heard in the news that there have been a lot of layoffs happening in the tech industry, and many engineers, especially from IT, from Google, Microsoft, and even from the consultancies here in Sydney, Australia, they have been struggling a lot because they are at loss, just like you said, that they are quite talented. They have always been praised for their innovation, their hard work, but then they are finding themselves redundant. What would you suggest to them to do as first thing to not to go into the ditch of depression, I would say?
Yeah. And that's a very pertinent question because it is happening all along. And the first thing that we do is to start doubting yourself. Or some people go to that extreme where they start blaming, somebody else, because it feels like, it's comfortable to shift the blame to somebody else.
Yeah.
But all that I would say is, firstly, know that there's nothing wrong with you. Know that it is time for you to take responsibility, whatever it is. It's time for your ownership of the situation. It is what it is. First, accept the situation, and then figure out what is it that I did which could have potentially led to this
Yeah.
situation. Because sometimes they may not have a hand in it, but for me, like, I had a hand in it. Obviously, my performance wasn't that great. And I had slipped into the clutches of mediocrity. So you have to do a self evaluation of where you stand. Nobody can say whether you are in whether you got caught up in the mediocrity game, or whether you were above average, below average, or you were simply outstanding and it happened, you just got the brunt of it. You have to evaluate where you
Okay.
stand. And based on that, you have to realize that what are the gaps. And based on that, you have to realize that where would you rather be and start working towards that. Fill the gap, invite the help, do whatever is needed, but take ownership. I feel that most of the time that ownership is lacking. It
Yes.
gets consumed by some feelings which are inevitable in most cases, but know that you are in control of the situation. Only you can change it. So the onus is on you.
Outstanding. Thanks for that. Now, you mentioned in your profile that visiting Tony Robbins Island in Fiji was a pivotal point in your journey. How did that experience contribute to your decision to become a coach, and what were some of the key takeaways?
So I remember going to Tony Robbins Island. It was like 1st February 2019 was my last day in my workplace. And 6th of February, I flew there. So within a week, I was there working on myself. And the biggest life changing moment was actually, there were quite a lot. I remember at that point, we didn't have much resources because my husband was out of job for a year and he was struggling to become a coach. He was a coach. We were getting some clients, some peanut money was coming in, but it wasn't enough. Um, on top of it, I got redundant and, both the income stopped coming in. Some unfortunate things happened and we were not left with much money. So it was a very tight time. And at that point, 6th of February, when we flew there, it was a decision. Like, we couldn't afford how when we go into a program there are packages.
Yeah,
So we took the cheapest package because that's all we could afford. And that package meant that when food was served to everybody in the room, we were not served because we couldn't afford that $250 a day extra, you know
yeah,
uh, 250 US dollar extra every day. So it was a lot of learning because I think we went as far as we could to grab that learning which we could, to whatever extent possible, and we cut off all the frills and focus on the learning that we could take from the best brains in that room. The second thing was, in those somewhere in those rooms, somewhere on that island, I learned that it is possible, no matter where you are in life, no matter how screwed up it has been, no matter how difficult a situation you are in, you can always restart. So that was the first place where I realized that I can literally deconstruct who I had become over the years because I wasn't proud of that. It was not my best form. You can deconstruct who you have become, and you can start designing. So you can get out of that life by default, the usual mode, autopilot mode that we are on most of the time in our life, and you can start designing it the way you want. I remember coming out, and I don't know if you're referring to that, but I wrote a post about whatever I wrote in that room, because we were pretty tight in terms of the finances. But whatever dreams I wrote, and this was great because I got this after, I think, 2 years back. I again looked at that book in which I wrote in that diary. Whatever I wrote, within 11 months, we surpassed multiple times of what we
awesome.
visualized there. So that taught me, those rooms, that island, that fresh air, that proximity, those learnings, those brains, they taught me that you can always restart in life. I was 42 at that time, and
Yeah.
that was amazing because they say 42, you get you really start understanding life, you get the meaning of
Yeah.
the universe.
So look, that is amazing line because this is what I was about to ask. That um, as soon as you cross 40s, especially 40s, people say that okay, you're not flexible, things won't change for you, you are what you are. So and just people start assuming stuff. But with your message and your practical example, I think that's not really a good idea to think about. I think anyone can change anytime. So that is massive and fabulous. Now, sticking to this point, Learning from the best coaches and snapping out of the average game sounds like a challenging process, but you have mentioned. I mean, you have done it, you surpassed it within 9 months, awesome. But not everyone, or maybe it is our own demons, but what were some of the most significant lessons you learned during this period?
Oh, amazing lessons. I don't know if I can count few, but let me think about few which changed the course of our life. One is I learned about decisioning. So I was somebody who had a very logical thought process. I will analyze, I would research, and then I will come up with a decision. I learned that there are two kinds of decisions in life. One that, which are reversible, and the other ones which are not reversible. So we spend the same amount of time, almost the same amount of time, as we spent on non-reversible decisions on reversible decisions. So, so certain non-reversible or difficult to reverse decisions are like, who should we marry, the important
Yeah,
decisions in our life. To an extent, the house that we buy, but I would call it as a reversible decision because we end up buying more than one houses in our lifetime. uh, but most of the time we get caught up in this analysis by paralysis mode. And I realized that was one of the reasons for my mediocrity. The quicker I become in taking decisions, so rather than, at the face of it, what how does it look like? Does it look right to me? So doing just at the face of it some logical things as quickly as I can, and then going totally by my instincts. So my logics cannot be more than my instincts. So I learned to work on my gut feeling, and I have realized that this is the best thing that I have learned, because no decision is foolproof in itself.
yeah,
We need to stand by our decisions to make them right. We can take the best decisions and they can fail if we don't stand
absolutely.
by it. So taking the decision extremely quickly and then standing, doing everything that is required to make it right, is something that I learned in
Beautiful.
those months.
Times, yeah. And this is what primarily entails to murdering mediocrity.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, why I would say I got caught up in the average game, because I became a bit slow. I became a bit slow. Slowness in everything. Like, I go to a new project. You know how it happens in the IT world. You go to a new project. Somehow you have told your mind that you take time to settle down. Initial ek do mahina jayega. You will be sitting there, and you will not be able to jump into the depth of it, because you need to first understand what is happening. Now that is great, but why can't I from day one start creating results? Why can't I just dive in and give my best? So there are some shackles which come because we become a little slow in putting our best, efforts forward. And so our career also starts taking us towards the average zone. So definitely the speed it impacts, because you're not taking decisions, you are spending too much time thinking about things rather than taking actions. You are spending too much time thinking about whose fault it is and who's responsible for it, rather than you taking ownership. As Barack Obama says, the one who says I will make it happen, no matter whose responsibility or many responsibilities feed into what he's taking ownership of, that is the one who will always shine, irrespective of any industry designation, any business unit. Those are the people. So somewhere it does impact, it does bring in mediocrity, the lack of quick decisions or quick actions.
Awesome. Makes sense. Now, you have worked with professionals across major corporations like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and various others. And these days, as I said, mentioned earlier, they are laying off a lot of people. Have you noticed any common theme across these organizations?
So I would say, I would say, when we talk about these organizations, one is, okay, let's talk about people outside these organizations first. So for these people, this is like dream. These
Yeah,
organizations are dream. They just want, FANG companies. They're just wanting to get there. Those people who are in the organization, they're no different from like all of us. They're just like us. This is
yeah,
what I've learned. They're not aliens. They're not somebody with the best brains, but they are people. They are people who have a high intellect, plus and high EQ. Both have to be developed. So it is not, and recently, like these companies have stopped putting a lot of emphasis on the degree and all. I remember when my husband Kapil was in Microsoft, at that time I was surprised to see that there were people working with him who had not even done a degree. They had done a small diploma and they were there, and they were one of the rock star performers. So the common thing that I have noted is, and this is irrespective of Apple, Facebook, all those companies or smaller companies, is each one of us get caught up in a rhythm in life. Now that rhythm may be, again, above average, below average, average, or outlier. You get used to a certain rhythm and you stay in that rhythm forever because you just don't know anything better.
Yeah.
And this is what paves the case for mid-career crisis, as a lot of us go through, because you just don't know what else is possible. And somewhere in the process, you cut short on the potential that you're sitting with, right? So this is a theme I have seen, that when people get 18 years, 15 years, 18 years, 22 years into their career, at that time, they have lived a norm, and that has become their norm. They've lived a certain rhythm. So it is important at points, especially when you are in your 40s, to give yourself a jolt, take yourself through a deep dive
Yeah.
to understand, am I doing, am I giving enough? Am I creating enough? Am I being who I am truly? Am I doing justice to myself, my existence, to my creator? Am I really doing it all? And if you feel a gap, then work on it. It is important to break that rhythm.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. Now, recognition from prestigious organizations and prestigious awards and features in top publications like Forbes and many other, they are testament to your impact. You also have done some TEDx talks. How do all of these accolades influence your approach to coaching, and what do you feel about it?
I just feel if I can do it, anybody can do it, because most of the people would not be as screwed up as I was, So I have come from a place where I fell down to my lowest, being somebody who was the blue-eyed girl of my hometown, and having a very rock solid education, being an outstanding performer, going, back to back outstanding ratings. I had a very I had a excellent career, outstanding career till a certain point in my life. I was handpicked for roles which were meant to come only for the people who were stars. And disasters happened. I got caught up in difficult situations, and I brought myself to my lowest. So I feel at this point, if I could do it, anybody can do it. And kind of, I know the method to the madness now. I know it, that there's a structure to all of it. Like in the initial few years, it was all about awards for me. Like, okay, this award, I used to feel great. And then I thought, okay, what big deal? For every award, there's an application process. If you fit the criteria, or if you're better than the other people, you get it, right? Simple. Then I became crazy about TEDx talks. I ended up doing one, and then I was like, it wasn't that difficult, let me do another, and then another one. You do one, and the rest you attract. This is what I realize. So sometimes
Awesome.
you have to, as I said, break your rhythm. You are standing there without any accolades in your career. Get the first one, you'll realize it is so easy, you'll get so much more. And then you do, like TEDx talk, for example, in my case, you do one, and the rest you attract. It just comes and falls in your lap. So I realized that you have to initially create that push effect to the market, like work on yourself so much, make yourself so strong in there, that initially you have to little bit push yourself to the market, and then soon you start creating the pull effect, whether it is for interviews. So this is what happens, like with my clients, people who have been failing interviews year after year, for years, people who have for 19 years worked in the same organization, and they just don't know how to package themselves. They go for the first one, and they find it a cakewalk. They clear it, and then they realize that they can face any interview in life, they can
Yeah.
give any presentation, they can be in boardrooms, they can contribute. So I would say this is what it taught me, that you can literally design your life the way you want. Anybody can do it.
Awesome. Um, Now, looking at the future, my channel is more focused on artificial intelligence, and there is a huge anxiety among the engineers and many people that AI is going to take away their jobs. And some of the fears are well grounded too. In your opinion, do you think that the time will come when the human coaches will be replaced by AI coaches?
Well, I don't know if that is possible because, for some blanket programs, like I don't follow a cookie cutter approach. I just don't know that if that is possible. You can have a program, people can answer, and based on the answer, things can be taught to them. But I love conversations. I love stories. I don't know ever AI can tell those stories, or AI can bring in the experiences. If AI can understand how this person is, because not everybody is the same. Every situation is different. Every individual is unique, and you need to take that into account. um, it's not training. Coaching is discovery. I don't know ever AI will be able to do that discovery for the individuals, because coaching doesn't mean that there's something wrong with a person. It just means that we are helping that person expand. That's all. They already have it inside them, and that
Yeah,
expansion, I don't believe it can be done by AI.
awesome. Okay, that's very reassuring. Now, what do you do other than your work? I mean, what are your hobbies? How do you unwind?
So I love to write. That's one of my passion. I love to write, and nothing specific. I write my diaries. I also love to spend time with my family. That is extremely important for me. That's like a prayer for me, a daily prayer. I love to spend time with. I love to go for walks. I love to spend time with my girls, chatting, just gossiping, talking about the girly stuff with them, and spend a lot of time with my partner. That's basically. I love going on, little nature trips. Love holidaying, so love traveling. Love writing about the travel, writing about every experience that I have daily. So, and I think that's enough to keep me going.
Cool. So, what is your all-time favorite holiday destination?
So it will always be New Zealand.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. Any particular place in New Zealand?
No, I think the south, or the whole of South Island. We've gone there twice, and I want to go there again. But the whole of it, like, it's amazing. It's like a very different world. Like, for you go to New Zealand, and for 200 kilometers, you will not see even a single vehicle coming from the other side. It's a very different
Wow,
world, where you can unwind, where you can see nature. My perfect definition of holiday.
awesome. And what are your favorite books?
My favorite books. Look, I like to read a variety of books. So a lot of them are about personal development, because I'm in that space, and I love to upskill myself. I do a lot of programs. I read a lot of books, and a lot of them are biographies. The most favorite one is The Magic of Thinking Big. That is my Bible. I read it every few months, because it is such a simple book that anybody can pick it up and finish it, like, pretty quickly. So that's by David Shores.
Oh,
That's
cool.
the best one. Another one that I would also mention is The Third Door by Alex Banyan.
Hmm.
That tells how, I mean, anybody who gets crazy enough to get to their goals, they can accomplish anything.
Cool, awesome. Now, towards the very end, I will just club two questions together. First, any final advice for the viewers? And secondly, if someone wants to reach to you, how can they approach you? Is there any email or where should they reach you?
Absolutely. So I'll answer the second one. For people who want to reach me, LinkedIn is the best place. So you'll find me. I call it my most authentic home, because you've got real people, real designations, real writing. So LinkedIn, definitely, they can reach out to me there. Now, in terms of the final piece of advice, your channel is focused on people who work in 9 to 5. So there's one advice that I would give. Look, your life is built not between 9 to 5, but with what you do between 5 and 9.
Awesome.
So make sure that you are using that productively. Make sure that you are doing something which takes you above and beyond. make sure that you are focusing on just 1% improvement a day in that time, 5 to 9. And a rocking career is just around the corner.
Awesome. Look, I have ticked that box because I am doing this interview after 5 p.m. So I'm
Yeah,
all set. So
you've picked it. Super awesome.
well, Shilpa, thank you so much. And I just want to tell my viewers that I am already a big fan of yours, been following you for a long time. And it's been an honor, really. I mean, it really illuminated my channel. And I'm more than sure a lot of people will be benefiting from it. And finally, I'll also put your LinkedIn profile link in the video's description. So if anyone wants to reach out, they should be able to do it. Thank you again and see you around.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure and very enjoyable conversation. Thank you, Fahad.